All right. Hello, everyone. Hi. Oh, I'm so excited to be live with Becca. This is my first time bringing a guest on the stream in this way, so it's very exciting that it worked and that your beautiful face is on the stream. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here. And it looks so cute. I love your Twitch layout.
Oh yeah, thank you, thank you. And I see Corrigan's in the chat. Hello, Corrigan. I see you're in the chat. Hello. Oh, good afternoon. Yes, time zones. Happy time zone. But yeah, let me know how the sound is as well. If there's anything I need to adjust, I can totally do that. But yeah, I think it's all looking good, and I'm very stoked about that. Oh, I did forget my lo-fi music here, so I'll turn that on in the background. But should be nice and soft. Just a little something something. But yeah, so we've got this screen, which is just our heads. But when we start talking about stuff, I've also got a screen where I can share our browser. So if we want to share anything specific that we're working on, we can do that. If we want to just have something to refer to. So yeah, so excited. So we're talking about Hacktoberfest today. It is already October 24th, which feels a little bit wild. I don't know about you, but October has flown by for me. Yeah, how has it been for you?
Yes, I definitely feel that. I think I was like signing a paper for one of my kids yesterday, and I was like, "What is the date? Is it the 20th?" And they were like, "No, that was 3 days ago." And I was like, "Oh, okay."
Literally,
I just keep missing
literally.
these days.
Like it hit the 20th and I was like, no freaking way. Cause my kid had daycare photos for like fall photos, which they did not tell me we're also going to have a Christmas background. So some of them have
Oh,
like holiday lights. And I was like, oh, cool. He's wearing a dinosaur shirt. Like not at all Christmassy. I could have like, I don't know. It was like October or it was August when they took them. So it was very hot still, but I could have, tried. But they were like, yeah, be sure to turn in what you want by the 21st if you want to do like daycare delivery. And I was like, oh, that's like later. No, it was the next day. So we missed that. But I'll have them mail them. It will be no big deal. But I was like, oh yeah, we have plenty of time. We did not have plenty of time. So yeah, it's if October is flying by like it is for us, like do not worry, you still have time to participate in Hacktoberfest. That is a really big thing I wanted to encourage people is you don't have to do some major feature. We'll get into that a little bit more, but you still have time. So even if you haven't even heard of Hacktoberfest before, I wanted to kind of introduce it to people, let people know sort of the origins, and then also what we're doing with our respective communities that we run, which I didn't even realize we have the exact same job title, which is very exciting. We're both technical community builders. I'm at Kamunda and you're at Deepgram.
yeah, that's awesome. I didn't realize that either.
Yeah, it wasn't until I was making the Twitter graphic that I was like, oh, that's awesome. Like, it's kind of a not a rare title, but it's a rarer, especially in the DevRel realm. And then we also have community managers. So we have like two different types of community managers, and it's rare that I see that in other companies. I feel like, or maybe I just haven't been looking for it yet. But yeah, that really excited me. Um, so yeah, first I want to dive into like what is Hacktoberfest, and I actually have my screen open to the Hacktoberfest website over here. So this is the official branding for this year, which I love. Um, what is Hacktoberfest? What is your background with it? When did you first find out about it? Yeah, tell me a little bit more about have you been involved with it in years past?
Yeah, so Hacktoberfest is the month-long celebration of open source contributions. And so it's sponsored by DigitalOcean and usually some other people. You can see the sponsors right there, Appright and Docker as well this year. And it is to encourage people to get into open source. And so it's supporting open source maintainers, the people who are in charge of the repositories on GitHub or GitLab. And it's to encourage people to contribute to that. So if you can find repositories that have a Hacktoberfest label or issues that say Hacktoberfest accepted, then and you are registered for Hacktoberfest through DigitalOcean, then you have the opportunity to not win, achieve um, 4 pull requests, which will get you either a T-shirt or you can plant a tree. So it is been really great for me. I went to a boot camp and I was always kind of told around the end of the boot camp, you have to get involved in open source. It will be really great for you to find a job. But I found that it was like very scary. And the first Hacktoberfest I did, I spent a lot of time just searching for issues. And
Yeah.
I think I spent more time searching than I ever did working on something because it was so overwhelming and I didn't know where to start. And some people had labels on issues that said like good first issue, and I'm like, good first issue for who? Like somebody that's been in software engineering for like 10 years or what, you know?
Oh, totally. Yeah. Yes, this is my first year trying to do Hacktoberfest. Like it's something I've been aware of, and I had the same feeling, even though I know what repos we have, but a lot of it is far too technical for me. So I'm looking for stuff that's like either tech adjacent or low no code. And yeah, just because it says good first issue, that doesn't necessarily mean it's a good first issue for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the nice things they've done with Hacktoberfest this year is provided more opportunities and encouragement for low code and no code contributions,
Yes.
which I think has been nice because sometimes people want to participate and maybe they're in tech adjacent roles or they're not coding yet or they're a little bit nervous to get involved and they don't have community support. And so providing that path for them and encouraging maintainers to participate in that path as well is a really great way to get people onboarded into what open source looks like. And I'm all for creating a welcoming space for everybody who's interested in open source contributions.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love the focus on low no code and also documentation. My team sits under developer experience, so I'm especially passionate about that because Docs is something that team owns. I say that team, they're my team, but also like I don't do anything with the docs really unless I'm updating something. So I feel like I need to give them full credit for that. But yeah, like docs are important too. And that work is important. So I love that they're also encouraging that. So I want to get into a little bit more about like, I guess like, okay, a lot of people don't seem to know that Hacktoberfest is run by DigitalOcean, which I think is really funny. Or maybe it's just my partner, like not to call him out on stream, but I had been talking about like what we're doing for Camunda for Hacktoberfest, and then he goes a couple days later, he's like, "Oh, I saw DigitalOcean's doing Hacktoberfest too," and I was like, "Actually, they run it. Like it's their program." Everyone else just kind of hopped on, and it's gotten bigger and bigger over the years, which is really great. But yeah, they're the ones that created it. They're the ones that got it rolling. And I think especially, I think it was 2020 that it got really big because someone made a YouTube video about how to get a free T-shirt by doing Hacktoberfest, which is so funny to me because like. I mean, swag is cool, but I did not realize it was that motivating for people to get a shirt.
Developers love free T-shirts.
I guess so. And I mean, the design is always really solid. Like their branding is really good every year. But I was so surprised that they had to start putting in more rules and not regulations, but like guidelines around spammy PRs because that's what happened as a result is people were like creating either spammy repos or spammy PRs to try to get the T-shirt, which I was like, oh, I didn't know. Like that's wild. But yeah, I mean, speaking of T-shirts, so I also pulled up our respective, I found your little blog post about all the different open source project that Deepgram is doing. And then I already closed mine for some reason, but.
I always do that. I try and like close down windows and tabs before I stream too. And then I often close down the wrong ones. And like, what? These tabs that I have open have nothing to do with anything I'm talking about. Now I have to Google them all.
Right. And also, so I have been, if you have come to my stream before, you know that I've been struggling to try to get my MacBook onto my stream PC. So I actually have two separate PCs running right now because the MacBook's not quite strong enough for the stream, but that's where all my stuff is. That's where I live. That's my home. But the stream PC was like just not like working well with it. But I finally got it set up. So therefore, like I'm on two separate computers right now. So that's a fun little thing as well.
That I can't even. My brain would not.
Shout out to my partner. That is the only reason it's set up and working because I look at the wires and I just immediately want to like lay down on the ground and not even think about it. Like it's so much. But I'm very grateful that it's working now. But I pulled up the Camunda one as well because speaking of T-shirts, we actually have a T-shirt if you do the Camunda challenge as well. So if you do 4 pull requests in our participating repos, then you can get a Camunda shirt. And this is the design. It's sort of inspired by like the GitHub graph, which is fun. Also, hi Cubity, I see you in the chat. Thank you for joining. So yeah, like we have resources and we're participating sort of on behalf of like our communities as well. And I wanted you to talk a little bit more about like what is Deepgram doing to inspire people to participate in Hacktoberfest and also make it easier to find like the right issues like you were talking about earlier.
Yeah, so for me and the team, I think that one of the things that we prioritize is being able to create a good experience, welcoming experience, and to allow people at all levels to participate in Hacktoberfest. And so we have a number of different open source repositories. Many of them are SDKs. We have official SDKs, we have community run SDKs. And then one thing that I did for Hacktoberfest this year was to spin up a Chrome extension project, which was actually based off of Kevin Lewis's project, where he created a Chrome extension, and then dive into that a little bit deeper and see if we could add some features. And so for me, I kind of like doing it from a learning experience as a maintainer, because I think it allows me to put myself in the place of our contributors as well. Because if they're new or if they're learning, sometimes you see maintainers who have been doing it for a really long time, and or even if you've been doing it for a couple of years, sometimes you forget what it's like to get started with something new. So I like the idea of starting a project around Hacktoberfest, because you're new to it, and so are the other people. And that doesn't mean that you can't prepare them. You can still have good documentation, you can still have good processes of communication, but then all of you can be learning this thing together and working together. And so that Deepgram translation Chrome extension is the one that I've been working through with some people, and trying to create issues that I think are good for a variety of levels, and to kind of improve on something that we've had. And so it's been really fun. There's actually, last week, I thought I'm not even going to be able to talk about this on the stream, because I was just getting error after error, and it's a closed issue right now, but you can see it's like a very extensive conversation happening there, because
Oh no, this one with 24 comments.
Yep.
Oh no.
But we fixed it.
Okay, great.
I'm not exactly sure what happened, because it was working. And so I'm thinking maybe there was some kind of Chrome update, because it had been working with no problems, and then suddenly it just didn't. Like, what is going on? But in some ways, that's kind of the fun of starting a new project, and like to be able to showcase communication skills and work through it with other people. So it's like almost a nice bonding experience. At least that's how I took it. So I hope that the contributors took it as that as well.
No, and like also, if one thing I like is if they were just looking to, get an easy win so they could get their t-shirt, they could have seen the issue and been like, okay, I'm not debugging this. But instead they decided to dive in and to help out. And I think that's really great. I mean, I think that's a sign that you're creating something that people are interested in, not just for a t-shirt, not just for the short term, but for the long term. So does this allows users to create transcripts and translate transcripts? Oh, okay. That's very cool. And that is actually very useful.
Yeah, so we don't have the translation yet, but my friend Nick Taylor from Netlify, who is awesome, is working on the translation issue right now. You can get the transcripts through the Chrome extension, which means like if you were to pull up this Twitch stream, for example, and you activated the browser extension, you would see the transcripts of both of us talking. Or I'm assuming it does it with Twitter Spaces too. I meant to test that before we met today, but I think any audio coming from a browser tab, you should be able to receive the transcription for that live.
That is so cool, because there are often, I follow a couple of DevRel folks that do DevRel in other languages, like especially my friend Pachi, who lives in Brazil. Like when she lived in the US and we were working together, I obviously posted stuff in English, and now it's like all Portuguese. And I'm like, okay, I need to learn some Portuguese, but also it would be great if I could like join your Twitter space and be supportive. Can we get Becca turned up a bit? Yes, we absolutely can. Thank you. Boop, 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 boop. Okay, cool. But like, I want to join your Twitter space and be supportive and have a general idea of what you're talking about. Obviously, a machine translation's not always exactly right, but it gets you to the core message, I think. And that's really a powerful tool to have just like in your browser extension. That's very cool.
Yeah, I think it is really nice. And like you mentioned, it's not perfect, right? With we do a really good job of transcription, but if there were a human being on the other side doing the transcription, you'll see more accuracy, especially when it comes to things like accents or specific language. But we do have features at Deepgram that can that look at different dialects or different languages, and we can add keywords to things to make it clearer. And so those aren't integrated into the extension right now, but in my mind, like that could be one of the features that we can be adding to this to make it clearer, to make it easier, and to create a space where there's free and open communication.
Yeah, no, that's such an amazing um, idea. Like, I really love this, and like, yeah, of course, it's not exactly the same as a human being, but it's so much more scalable for things like a Twitter Space, which you can't always get like a live translator for. So I think it makes total sense. This is a very cool use case, and I love that you decided to launch this during Hacktoberfest, which is really exciting. Um, I've actually been okay. So I signed up to work on this project. I haven't done anything with it yet, so don't get too excited. But this is a fellow streamer, Geeky Girl Sarah, and Code Thesaurus. Nope, I'm trying to go to the actual repo. Thank you. Code Thesaurus is a polyglot reference tool. So if you know a language and you want to know, like, okay, what's classes, what are data types, how do they do lists, arrays, etc., in a different language, it will show you side by side a comparison, which
That's
I think
fantastic.
is right. Isn't that a smart tool? And
Yes.
what made me think about this specifically is that this was launched during Hacktoberfest a couple years ago. So they get like, it's the same idea. Like, oh, this is a great time to celebrate open source. Let's create a project that is really cool and that we can get people excited about. And it gets like, it's very well sorted in terms of issues, which is why I wanted to participate. Like, look at all these labels. So there's like good first issue, help wanted, Hacktoberfest, but then it also says what language, and it says like what part of the app. So like language concept design. I'm sure there's more, but those are, yeah, CI/CD. So if you know a specific skill set, then you can find an issue that works for you. So that's why I grabbed an issue. I've not worked on it yet, so don't get too excited. I'm hoping to work on it on stream later this week, but we'll see if that works out. But so this is also like, it's not, the thing I signed up for is not really code heavy, but it's code adjacent, because I still wanted to be like, okay, I'm learning to code. I'm getting more into it, and I want to do something that feels like code adjacent at least. But luckily it's not like, hey, do you know CI/CD? Because I don't. So yeah, this is a cool project. I love that, like, it's pretty much born out of Hacktoberfest, which I think is very cool.
That is really awesome.
Yeah, I was also going to ask, like, so for the Deepgram stuff, like, what is the stack? Are there a lot of different languages, or is it primarily, like, I see Rust, I see Python.
Yeah. So we've got Python, Rust, .NET, Go, Dino. These are all things that are in the works. The SDKs that are maintained by Deepgram are the Node SDK, .NET SDK, and the Python one, but the other ones are community led. But that doesn't mean that we're not excited about them too. We love to make progress on that. And we've got some PRs that have gone in for definitely the Go SDK. So I'm very excited for what's happening with that.
Man, that's so cool.
And my background is in JavaScript, so the Deepgram translation Chrome extension is in JavaScript. That makes most sense for me. And then we've got a couple of community projects that folks have been trying to work on. So, and we're running a hackathon with the Learn, Build, Teach community right now. And so they're all working this week on creating a project that they'll submit October 31st. So the last day of Hacktoberfest is the last day of the hackathon, but it kind of, because it coincides, they'll be able to get open source credit for those things, which is in some ways kind of cool.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. But it just goes with what we were saying earlier about October being so busy. Like, when we were trying to schedule this, it's like, oh no, I'm traveling. Oh no, I'm at a conference. Oh no, I have this hackathon. Like, there's so much happening. But it's a great opportunity for them for sure. If you're gonna do open source stuff, you might as well do it in October and maybe get a T-shirt out of it.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's great to build community too. And I think that one of the things that I didn't realize when people were saying, like, get involved in open source was it's more than, the T-shirt is really cool, but you build so many different skills. And I'm working on a blog post right now for, I think it's going to come out the first week in November, which is 5 reasons you should continue contributing to open source. And is why I would love to see people get started now and then like maintain that excitement and continue going on with this, because it's not just building resume, but it's also like building community, learning about other people, having the chance to work in different tech stacks maybe, or advance how much your learning and understanding of a certain tech stack is. So I think that, it's really great to launch this right now and then just maintain that excitement going forward.
Yeah, I know a lot of folks I've talked to, Hacktoberfest was their first experience with open source, but it certainly wasn't their last, and they don't wait until next October to participate again. But you do kind of lose some momentum because it's not like a big community push around it. So I think that's great to be like, hey, here's all the reasons you should keep participating. And you mentioned earlier, like everyone says like, oh, you should do open source, you should do open source. But you're like, what does that mean? So this can help get your feet wet, but there's so much more to dive into, especially if you're a beginner, especially like I'm thinking about folks that are like students or in boot camp, and this is such a good opportunity to work asynchronously with people that you don't already know, maybe through boot camp or through school, and get that like almost like real world experience. Like I know I have a mentee who's studying computer science, very smart, knows way more about code than I do, but was like, yeah, I started my internship and I've never used GitHub before. I've never used Git before. Like all the version control stuff was just completely new to me, and they had to teach it to me. And that's very common, from what I've heard, is like, it's not really part of the curriculum. So it's a great way to learn that skill, which, as someone coming in from sort of like a weird reverse tech path, I'm like, oh, GitHub, but GitHub is like where the code goes. So I think it's a really good opportunity to do all that. And I wanted to talk a little bit too about doing my rainbow transition. Okay.
Love the rainbow transition. It's so cute.
It's so fun, right? It was like a couple bucks on Etsy. Like I'm telling you, Etsy has all the stream graphics. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
If you're like,
know.
I need like emotes.
Think about that.
Yeah, like my background and everything is from Etsy. Like literally, if you can't afford a custom, which it makes sense because it's really expensive, or if you're like me and you're like, what would I even do? Like, I just want it to be cute. Yeah, Etsy has everything. And it makes me feel very fancy to have a rainbow transition. Like I know what I'm doing.
You are very fancy.
But I literally just downloaded it, and then they were like, here's the instructions. Like it was very easy. But yeah, you mentioned like that you had some community repos and then also some official ones, and we have that as well at Camunda. I'm actually working on a talk about sort of sustaining the community stuff, which maybe we need to talk about offline or on a different stream. But so we have like our official Camunda repos. We also have bpmn.io, and then we have Community Hub. And I know this is confusing because that's a lot of different places to look, but the Community Hub is all of our community run, community organized, not officially supported, but community extensions. And again, like just because they're not official does not mean we do not love them. In fact, a lot of these get a lot of use. They're just not official features, right? So we also like, and also if you look at the official Camunda repos, a lot of them are Java. So if you're not a Java developer, you might be like, oh, I can't participate in this, but that's not true. Our community ones, I mean, of course I say this in like the first 10, 15 are Java, but we've got Kotlin, we've got JavaScript, we've got HTML, we've got like an awesome list you can contribute to, which is literally just Markdown. Like you don't have to know any code to contribute to an awesome list and help out with that. I've got some documentation that I manage that I'm like, yeah, if you want to participate in Hacktoberfest and you can think of improvements, please do. C#, a little bit of everything. So on all these and this is true for, I have two keyboards. This is a mess. As I lean over. Okay.
I feel for you right now. I feel nervous even hearing that.
I will get better at it, but yeah, this is the first time I've used both computers successfully, so it's a learning curve. But yeah, I recommend just wherever you're looking, be sure to search for Hacktoberfest to make sure it has the label on it. Otherwise, we have like 170 something repos, and only 18 of them wanted to participate in Hacktoberfest because it is a big time commitment and it is a lot of effort to put in, right? So just make sure you're putting in pull requests where Hacktoberfest is a thing, so that that someone's looking at them and is available for you during this time, and also so that if you want your t-shirt or you want your tree planted or a little bit of both, that's how you get that. And you'll see here, like, again, Java, Kotlin, another Java, but also JavaScript, HTML, C#, Kotlin, so on and so forth. So there's and this is what I was talking about. This is my like this is all of the documentation, like the meta documentation for the community. So if you're looking at this and you're like, wow, this is a mess, please submit a PR. I will give you a Hacktoberfest accepted label if it makes sense. Like, I would love feedback on it, you know. So so far no one's taken me up on that, but yeah, I would love that. So yeah, we've got quite a few, not only here but also in the official bpmn.io, and then also in the official Camunda ones, which of course is trying to make me do single sign-on, and I don't want to do that right now. So yeah, like, we have a place to start for both of our communities, whatever your background. You can probably find some issues and some documentation, some non-code stuff as well. But also just generally, if you go to the Hacktoberfest website, they have a lot of ways to get started as well.
And I'll say too, I just wanted to mention, last year, I think my 4th pull request was fixing installation instructions in a repository. And it wasn't even an issue. I just wanted to run the project and I couldn't run it, and I couldn't figure out why. And then as I was walking through, I realized that a command needed to be tweaked because maybe the script from the package JSON file got updated to a different word. And I thought, oh, okay, I need to fix this so other people can run the project. And that was on a Hacktoberfest repository. And so that, I think, one word change, it enabled people to run the project, but it got me my 4th PR. And I was like, oh, I didn't even need it, but that's cool.
No, like, that's a huge change, like a hugely important change, right? Because if you can't even run the project and you have to do whatever sort of debugging to get to the point where you can run it, then yeah, like Coding Vibe in the chat says, README updates are so important. It is true. And a lot of the developers I talk to are like, I would rather like chew my own arm off than work on documentation. So if you can help like any sort of documentation upgrades, they are so wanted, so necessary, and so important. And they count for Hacktoberfest, which I think a lot of people just don't realize, because when you think open source, you think code. But there's a lot of like code adjacent things, non-code contributions that you can make. And also, I think that's literally on my, so, you know, GitHub has these badges. And on mine, I have this thing that's like, oh, you contributed to the Arctic Code Vault or whatever. And I think I literally, it was Tecton CD, which is not, like, that repo is archived now. But I think it was literally the same thing. I think I was like, hey, I can't run this because I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I'm too new at this. And then I put instructions in and that counted. And then I got a badge from it. And it was like the world's easiest, like, simplest update.
Yeah, absolutely. I also want to mention too that there are a lot of maintainers out there that write issues that will actually walk through everything that you have to do, because they're interested in helping onboard new contributors and to support them in that journey. And so even if you're very new to coding, you might be able to follow what the issue says. And I'm hoping to this week get some up on our translation extension that's really going to be walk you through exactly what you need to be doing so you can get that contribution and kind of get familiar with that process. Because, you know, when people say just get started in open source, it does make assumptions about all of the other things that you have to do to make that open source contribution. And I think that, like, learning Git and learning PRs can be really overwhelming and scary. I remember the first time I ever made a PR for my first job, I had no idea what I was doing. Like, I had graduated boot camp, but I wasn't submitting PRs to my own projects. So I was like, so to do a PR, like,
yeah. And like, I also was like, what's the etiquette? Because like, am I supposed, it's like, do you want to squash this? I'm like, that sounds a little aggressive. Like, and you know, yeah, I was like, do I make a new branch? Like, what's the difference between a branch and a, like, I was so confused about all that, because it's one thing to be doing it on your own profile where it doesn't really matter because you're not stepping on anyone's toes if you do something like the incorrect etiquette. But it's totally different when you're working with other people and you want to make sure you're doing it right. And like, maybe you're newer in coding in general. So you're like, am I even good at this? Like, you've got that imposter syndrome anyway. And also, I don't want to, I just noticed this comment from Chael Codes, who I love. Thank you for being here. Who says, those are my favorite PRs, easy to code review, very important. So the docs changes, the README changes are also easier for the maintainer, which is a big thing during Hacktoberfest, since there are so many different things. Oh, thank you for the follow, Abuna002. I have my emote explosion just for you. Yeah, and also great point, shell codes. Every repo has slightly different etiquette. So that's, if you're new, I pulled up this, but I'll also pull up their contributor guide. So this is open sourced, which if you are at all on Twitch and interested in open source, you have probably seen before, because B Dougie is the one who runs it and does a lot of Twitch streaming. Used to work for GitHub, I believe, maybe still does. But okay, yeah, I thought not. I thought
all in on open source.
All in on open source, which is so cool. So it's the path to your next open source contribution. It's like pizza themed. It's very cute. But what I wanted to point out is that they have really good documentation. So if you're like brand new to all this, it shows you step by step how to do it. There's a huge, like, here we go, contributing guide. So this is like all their documentation on how to contribute and how to follow what they're interested in and receiving, so that it's easier for them as maintainers to receive like your contributions and know where they belong and know the right thing. So a lot of repos will have a contributing guide. They're not always this detailed. But the reason I pulled them up also is because they're so good at issues. Maybe they're all, I was looking for maybe like a good first issue, but all of these are a little more advanced. But a lot of times it's like, sometimes it's literally like, hey, do this and then this will be complete. I just don't have time to do it myself, or I want to make something for the community to participate. I was watching, I think it was a stream that he was doing earlier this year, and it was like, hey, here's this CSS issue that I have. You can literally, like, I challenge someone in the chat to grab it right now because the answer is in the issue. Like, you don't have to work at it. You just have to do the thing that it says in the issue. And that is like, if you can find something that is that simple, what a great path to get started with contributing to open source.
Yeah, absolutely. And it allows you to maintain that relationship. And I was talking with Tessa Mero from AppRight last week on a Twitter space, and she was saying that one of the things with open source contributions is you also get to see how people communicate with each other and interact with each other, and, you know, get some sense of, if you're hiring, hey, this might be a really good person to join your team. And so to talk about that, you know, it's about the code, but it's also about that community building. It's about how you treat other people with respect or walk through issues. And I think that, you know, if we're trying our best, it really shows.
Yeah, that's such a good point. I know, especially for like this technical community builder role, they were like, oh, and we'll just look at your LinkedIn your GitHub. And I was like, because I just hadn't done that much with it at the moment. And you can actually see like the day I started, like where my green dots start, because I started this in July. And that was like, oh, look, I'm doing way more now because that's where my job is. And that's where I'm focused. But yeah, when they were like, oh, we'll just look at your GitHub to see what you've done, you know, that's public previously, I'm like, oh no, like I don't have as much as I wish I had. And this is a great way to showcase that, like, this is how I work. This is how I work with other people. I know how Git works. I know how source control and versioning works. And all of those are really important skills, like especially the soft skills of communication and being able to work through an issue respectfully and with respect to everyone's time and like them as people around you as well. I want to read this comment from the chat too. Chillcode says, sometimes I'm away from my computer, or my keyboard, but I want to remember to do something. I made an issue to add issue templates later. Not complicated at all, but one of my community members picked it up for HACKTOBERFEST. Oh, that's great. So like you were just like, oh, I'll put this as an issue so I remember to do it. And then someone was like, got it. Don't even think about it. Don't even worry about it.
I think too, as a maintainer, that's one of those nice things that you can add there, especially if you have it updated in the repo. I recently updated my issue templates to issue forms, which I like. I like templates, but I like forms better. But if I had another repository where I needed that update, I could link to what I had done there and say, hey, like, can somebody update these templates to forms? Or we have 5 repos. They all need to have the forms or the templates on them. So then just drop a link to one, so it allows people to see, like, this is an example that we want to have replicated here. And that's another great way to get people involved. Wait,
I didn't know that forms were a thing. Is that in the Chrome extension repo?
So if you create a new issue, that should work. Let's hope it does. Okay, so click one of those. Hopefully I did it on both. Maybe try a bug report, or nope, that's not that one. Try bug report. Maybe.
Oh, there we go. Yeah. I have not seen the form version.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
so
So
cool.
I believe that it has to be done on an open source repository. So if it's a private repo, then you can't have forms, or maybe you have to pay for forms. I'm not sure. But I had forgotten about them until last week when somebody reminded me that, like, oh, templates are cool, but forms are cooler. And I was like, it does make it more of an easier onboarding experience. And I think that I pretty much ripped this form from virtual coffee because I knew that we already had them there, and I was like, all right, you got to throw a GIF in there and
I love the GIF,
have
by the
all
way.
the
Like squash the bug, squash the pumpkin. It's very Hacktoberfest
yeah.
with the pumpkin.
That's what I was going for. I was hoping that somebody wouldn't be super confused by what was happening there.
No, I love it.
But it makes it easier for folks who are not used to templates to walk through, because templates can look a little bit like overwhelming or messy if you're not in the preview mode, but you can't type in the preview mode. So this is a little bit more user friendly, I think.
Yeah, I've worked with and myself, like coming from a marketing background and not a technical background. Markdown itself is such a huge like blocker for people, because they look at this and they're like, okay, I feel like I'm going to mess it up if I touch anything, and they don't know what, like, am I allowed to change this header, or is this only, like, do I need to keep this? Like, they just don't know. So yeah, I had not even heard that the forms were an option, but I'm going to switch all of my templates to this, because this is way better to the forms than the markdown templates.
Template.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And especially,
Yeah,
I
so I
love the
guess my
drop
feature
down.
request, yeah, that makes it really nice. So if you want to, so check out the bug report. If anybody is listening and wants a PR, feel free to go ahead and update the feature request there with a form. I'll have to add that later if nobody starts it right now, but I intended to. So I had started a live stream just to update these, and I thought, well, I'm going to show what the Chrome extension does before I get started. And then that's when I discovered it wasn't working.
Oh.
So rather than updating what I anticipated, I was trying to figure out what this error was. So I must not have gotten to the feature request. And I think it was Friday. And so it was like, okay, I should have made a note, because I definitely did not remember to
Well, hey, it's fine, because we found it now. Yeah, and that's such a relatable, because I know several folks in the stream, like Jailcodes, Coding Vibe, like they are technical streamers, so I'm sure that they have been there, done that. I feel like every time I go to Coding Vibe stream, he's like, all right, let's debug what's happening with my like overlay this time. And half the time it works and half the time it doesn't. That's just sort of the nature of the game. No, but this is really cool. Maybe I'll add that as an issue for my my community hub repos, because so we have a template repo that we use. So if you want to create a new extension, you can use the template, but it also has these issue templates, and it would be so much better as a form. I mean, just incredible. That's so cool. So yeah, that's an easy issue. If anyone needs an Hacktoberfest issue, grab that from this this repo here. And if you do exclamation point Hacktoberfest, the link to all the stuff I'm talking about, so the official Hacktoberfest website so you can register, the Deepgram blog post so that you can look at all the different repos y'all have available, and also the Camunda one, it's all in that command. So
whoa,
everyone in the chat loves the forms too. I'm just, wow. What a big like user experience change for GitHub too, because I think that's also just a wider issue with GitHub, is trying to make it accessible to non-technical people, or people that haven't seen it before. So that's a great change. I love that.
Yeah, I want to say too, last year for Virtual Coffee, we always do a big Hacktoberfest thing, and we always provided mentorship and support. And somebody who had been in tech for many years and is a founder of a startup participated in Hacktoberfest with Virtual Coffee and wanted a mentor. And I was thinking, like, okay, who do I pair up with somebody that has this much experience? But you know, it goes to say that it's not just people who are coming into tech that need support. Sometimes people who have been doing this for a really long time, they still want to have that support from other people. They want to make sure that they're doing things properly, or if they have questions that they know where to go to. And so I just want to say that I think that it's valid no matter where you are in your journey to be able to ask for help or support, and don't be afraid to do that.
Yeah, no, that's a really great point. And I'm definitely not trying to make it sound like it's only beginners. Like everyone, especially the etiquette stuff, like I feel like that for me trips me up, even if I feel like, okay, I know how to make a pull request, but do I know how to do it in a way where I won't do something wrong and everyone will look at me like I'm, terrible, which is never what happens, by the way. People are very friendly. But that's always my concern too. So yeah, it doesn't matter where you're at in your journey. Yeah. And since you mentioned virtual coffee, I pulled it up because I want to give a little plug. Do you want to talk a little bit about what virtual coffee is?
Yeah, sure. Virtual Coffee is a community of developers at all stages of the journey. And we're just kind of supporting each other where we are. We really use a person first approach to make sure that everybody feels supported, that we all feel like we can learn and grow together. And it doesn't matter, if you spent one day doing code or a million days doing code, or if your tech stack is this thing and somebody else's tech stack is that thing. Just the point is for us to be able to share this time together and to support each other. So we are happy to support everybody.
Yeah, and also y'all have the world's cutest logo, perhaps of all time. It's a coffee cup, and
shout out to Drew Clement.
Oh, okay, awesome. Yeah, no, it's really cute. I love people that can figure out design things like that because I don't know, I love it. It's very cute. Also, thank you for the follow, Bald Bearded Builder, who I also follow. So I know you work at DeepGram as well. So it's a small world here. I feel like we're just playing like a DevRel bingo, but I love it. So yeah, I know also Virtual Coffee is doing some Hacktoberfest stuff. So yeah, check it out for more Hacktoberfest content and mentorship and challenges and all kinds of fun stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then on a personal level, like non DeepGram stuff, are you doing any sort of like, and it's totally fine if you're not, are you trying to take on the Hacktoberfest challenge personally as well? Or are you just doing like work stuff, which is totally fine. That is plenty.
Every year I say that like I'm gonna keep it low key this year, and then like 4 days before Hacktoberfest I'm like, no, I'm gonna go all out, I'm gonna do all the things. So I got my 4 pull requests in the second day of Hacktoberfest. I don't really know what happened. I think that there were like some outstanding pull requests that somebody must have merged in somewhere, because I was like, what is happening?
No, that's amazing though.
I have my postpartum wellness app that I'm maintaining for Hacktoberfest, which is something that I've done every year for the past couple of years. And I've said, no, I'm not going to do this. And every single year I decide to do it. But it's one of those projects that means a lot to me. And I really love being invested in things like the translation Chrome extension, because I think that it helps a bunch of people, the postpartum wellness app, because I think that has the potential to help a lot of people. And so, I'm just like very much interested in finding ways to support the community, whether that's in tech or outside of tech, and to be able to work on meaningful projects together, because I think that has created some really great and important moments in my life where I've been able to feel supported with where I am at, and to be able to create like these deep relationships with people while we're coding together.
That is so great. And when I first saw you tweeting about the postpartum wellness app, I was like, that is so smart, because I am a relatively new mom. My kid is 14 months. So I think I'm about to, like, technically he's a toddler, which I'm not okay with. But yeah, that first, like, especially the first several months postpartum was really difficult, like more difficult than I imagined. And I had gone into it thinking, oh, this is going to be really hard. I need to assemble my care team. I need to have like people on standby. But I think, yeah, it was just, the challenges were different than expected. So having something like this, and also just having the community around it, like even if like maybe the app isn't helpful, but I can say like, oh, I know somebody who's building this app. So like that means that maybe she has some experience that I do, and I can reach out or whatever. Like there's this community of people that you're able to tap. Chill Codes is asking, what does the app do and what stack is it?
So right now it's not a working app. I'm making my way there. It's because this is what I do in the little free time. I've got 4 kids, so there's not that much free time to be had. But
yeah, I think you're doing plenty, by the way. Like even just talking to you for this last couple of minutes is like, are you good?
Yeah, wowzers. So right now it's in React Native, which is another thing. I don't really do React Native. I've worked a contract in React Native and I know basic, but it's like very much learning as I go along. And then there's like, oh, we've updated these packages and they're out of date and it's broken. I'm like, why did you do that? I was just understanding. Like,
Oh no.
so the idea is that it will provide a couple of different things. So resources, first of all, for people, because I think that a lot of times you don't know, you think that you know what to anticipate, but when you're there and you realize that it's almost something that you can't explain or you couldn't have understood before then. And one of the purposes of the project was when I was going through my postpartum period with my last child, I was looking for postpartum apps and they were all about losing weight. And I was like, what are we doing?
Are you kidding me? Like,
top hits.
Good Lord. I could rant about this for a while, but suffice to say, number one, should not be your main concern. And if it is, then like get a new support system if that's what the problem is, and get a new doctor if that's what the problem is. And also, if you're nursing, that should be the last thing on your mind.
Yeah.
Because you're literally supporting not only your life, but someone else's life. Like, yeah, I don't know. That drives me crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. And so the focus on this is not at all on that, as you can tell, because I feel like there's a need. I think that it is often difficult for us to recognize that we have postpartum depression, and it can be difficult for those around us to recognize that we have postpartum depression, or not even depression. I think that I probably had postpartum anxiety with all of my kids, and I didn't even know that was a thing until like my youngest was 3. So
yeah, I was seeing my psychiatrist regularly, and she was like, oh, so it sounds like you have some postpartum anxiety. And I have regular anxiety. So you think I would have like, and like I do a lot of proactive mental health care, and I talk about mental health a lot. So you think I would have heard about postpartum anxiety at any point. But until she said that, I was like, oh, I did not realize that was even an option.
Yeah. I remember being in grad school. I was in grad school. I was getting my master's in English when I had my first. And there was this poem, and I can't remember who it was written by, but she talked about having her first kid and how like she would hear airplanes go over like fly over their house, like regular airplanes, right? And she was like worried about bombs, like, oh, there might be bombs, and what if the bombs hit my baby? And like that really struck a chord with me, because I had really weird anxieties over like once I dropped a battery on my kid's head, and I'm like, oh my gosh, he's gonna have a brain bleed and he's going to die. Which like now I can recognize there's real postpartum anxiety that was feeding into that, because it wasn't a rational thought, but I had never heard about that. And I just thought like, oh, it's the normal first time mom things that you have to work out, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And also all the moms in the chat are commenting on this, which I love. Yeah, I chill codes, I will fight your grandma, number one. Reminds me of my grandma. God rest her soul, but like glad I didn't have to deal with that in postpartum. And yeah, like convinced you're going to leave your baby in weird places, or that you have these like, you know, these intrusive thoughts about how you're a bad parent, and none of that is true, but it's a thing and you don't know how to deal with it, because that's not what they talk about. They talk about postpartum depression. So yeah, I love all these, oh yeah. Oh, hallucinating that your baby is in your arms. Actually, Coding Vibes, my partner, had the classic, I guess, baby and lost in your bed sheets dream a lot. So like I'd wake up and he would be searching through the sheets for the baby, and I'd be like, hey, and he would be fully asleep while he was doing it. And I'd be like, hey, what's going on? And he's like, I gotta get the baby. And I'm like, the baby's in the bassinet. The baby's not even there. And yeah, it was, I didn't know that dads could be affected also by the sort of postpartum anxiety. Like that's not a thing that people talk about. Like they all focus, obviously you've got hormones going on if you're the birthing parent. So that's a whole thing. But yeah, I was like, oh, I worked so hard to set up my system that I wasn't ready for like my partner to also be going through the struggles of being a new parent. I love all the parents in the chat that are like, wait, no, we need to talk about this. Like enough about Hacktoberfest, time to talk about postpartum.
Well, and this is where I feel like Hacktoberfest could be such a great thing to, for me, like part of the issue with this is I don't have the knowledge and expertise to be able to plan everything out, let alone design anything. Like this year I just gave up on design. I'm like, just get this in place, and then if I ever have someone nice enough that helps out with design, then we can kind of go back and implement that. But you know, these ideas, I think that it's so important to talk about these things, and it has created these conversations with other women too, and parents, that about what their experiences have been. And I had talked to another dad who had experienced his partner going through postpartum depression and what that was like, and then the experience for him. And I don't think that a lot of people do realize that fathers or non-birthing parents can go through these issues. And we had talked about, in some way, it would be nice to have like an iteration down the road where there was support for people who are going through that, who aren't the birthing parent, and to, allow them to find help too. And that's kind of the idea here, is to provide resources to do things like habit tracking for early diagnosis of postpartum wellness issues, and then also to connect you with other people so you can get non-judgmental help that you deserve to have.
And also just like the community aspect. I mean, I can't understate that. Like, clearly we all needed a place to talk about this because like the chat's exploding with it. But also, okay, you mentioned like it would be great to include other parents, not necessarily just the birthing parent. Even during the process of like the pregnancy, I noticed the app is all the apps out there are so heterocentric. So they assume that you're in a opposite sex relationship, that you're maybe married, that you only have one partner. Like, it makes so many assumptions about who you are as a person. A lot of them were very like, woman power kind of stuff, which I don't jive with because I'm non-binary. And I'm like, I would just like a very neutral experience here. And then I realized that like the app was telling me stuff, but it wasn't telling my partner stuff. And like, he wasn't as prepared. We finally found this app called Daddy Up, which is on Android, which I don't necessarily recommend either, because it's like, your baby is the size of a grizzly bear cub. Like, it's very like masculine. But it's interesting because it was like the first time I had even seen an app that was aimed at dads, that was aimed at people that weren't giving birth. And it was like, okay, here's how big your baby is. Here's what your partner is going through in terms of like symptoms and things like that. And then it was like, oh, here's a checklist for nesting. Here's a checklist for like things that you need to do. So it wasn't just on my mind, but also like he had some sort of awareness as well. But then it would be like, go get a beer and nachos with the boys, which is also like not the kind of person that my partner is. So I would love like just, free app idea. You will make tons of money. A more neutral pregnancy app that also allows you to be like, I am the partner in this situation. Like, I'm supporting a pregnant person. Tell me what I need to know as well, so that like it's not the pregnant person's job to also tell me like, hey, by the way, we need to get a car seat. We need to do, insert many tasks here. So yeah, free app idea. You will make tons of money if you have the ability to make and market this.
Yeah, it's so hard too. And I think with my second, I probably I remember texting a friend at one point, like, can you have postpartum anxiety before you're postpartum? Like,
also, yes.
What is the thing? Yeah. But there's not, so it's not really postpartum, right? Like, it's, but I think that, like being able to recognize these things and being able to easily connect to other people, connect to your support system, is super important.
Yeah, I would love to. Like, Twitty Such is talking about having gestational diabetes, so keeping like your spouse aware of like blood sugar and how that's going. And for me, like the mental health aspect, being able to have my partner plugged into something like the postpartum wellness app and say like, hey, your partner may be having some postpartum anxiety. Like, here's either things you can do for that or how to support them, or just call their psych, whatever you need. But yeah, like it would be so helpful to have sort of more insight into that, especially in a busy time when we weren't communicating about stuff like that very well, right? We were just trying to figure out how to take care of baby. So
yeah, I got this idea for, you should have to, you should be allowed to add support people that will receive a text message or some form of communication when you need help, but then also have some pre-programmed messages that you can quickly send, right? So sometimes it's, I need support, I need a nap, or I need to go for a walk, or I need somebody to bring me dinner, right? And sometimes it is, I need support and I don't know what I need right now. So there are different levels. Sometimes you need something that could be an hour or two commitment, or maybe just ordering some food. Other times you need to be able to figure this out, or know that you're not the only one that feels this way, that somebody else is there to be open and to talk with you about it. and to decrease the barriers for reaching out to help, because I think it's a huge issue because it's so stigmatized. Any type of mental health thing, or somebody in the chat was talking about like being afraid that their baby was going to be taken away, and I've
Yeah.
heard that a lot, and I've actually seen it happen. So
Oh
it's
no.
not super uncommon because there's a lack of care and understanding about what postpartum mental health disorders look like.
Yeah, and not to, alienate anyone out there who's not a parent or whatever. I promise I we will move on as well. But one thing
Sorry.
that my doulist had me do, or had us do actually, was create like a list of all the different people we could rely on for different things, like making meals, cleaning the house, taking care of the baby, letting us take a nap, stuff like that. It would be so cool, like if you have these sort of like circles of like, okay, these are my close people that I can rely on for, they can come over when my house is a mess and I don't care. This is my next level of like, they can drop off a meal and I don't care, or whatever. And being able to just like already have a pre-populated message that's like, hey, I could use some help, and this is exactly how, would be so helpful. Because that's the other thing, is I felt like, and I didn't realize this for months later, I felt like I couldn't actually ask for help because I needed to prove I was a good parent and that I was handling it well, and that I was like really nailing this whole new parenthood thing. So even the times that I was like, oh, like my mom's coming over to help, but she's kind of, I wish she would do the dishes, but I don't want to ask for that because like I'm doing so well. Yeah, I had to win parenting. Exactly.
Yeah.
Gosh. I don't know. Like, I think now if I were to have another baby, I would be a little bit better about that because I've reflected on it and I saw what happened and I was like, oh, no, but that's not what I actually needed. But oh my God, would it not be so easy to just send a text and be like, hey, when you come over today, can you do the dishes, instead of like looking at my baby and telling me how cute he is? And I'm like, yeah, I know. And also I'm great at parenting. No, literally.
Yeah,
Okay. That's what the
absolutely.
duelists do, is they barge into your house. They do the dishes while you're talking to them. Like they don't even ask. They just start doing like house chores and you're like, oh, okay, I guess this is happening. Like that's what we need. But that's such a not a thing in our society. Yeah.
Yeah, my sister-in-law is a postpartum doula, and one of my close friends is. And I think that it's one of those things that so many moms think they don't need, but that would be one of the greatest gifts that you can give to somebody after they have given birth, to be able to have that non-judgmental support.
Yeah. It was like one of my must-haves, but I know it's also not like financially feasible for a lot of people. But I will say, if this is a thing you're interested in, they have sliding scales a lot of the time. Like my doulas are like, hey, you can pay 100% if like you have these privileges, consider paying our full rate. If you don't, like we will do a sliding scale to meet you, but this allows us to do the sliding scale as the clients who pay 100% and that sort of thing. So definitely, and there's like, I know the Austin area where I live has scholarships or grants, I guess, for doulas. So if it's not something you can afford, you can still look into it because it is so worth it. It helped my entire experience so much. And again, like, I mean, if you don't have a village, build a village, hire a doula. Yeah. I everyone in the chat, I just want to give you all a hug. You're all doing great. We're all doing great. Everyone, us two included. I mean, Becca has 4 kids, which I literally don't know how that's possible. Because you mentioned before we went on air, like, oh, and don't you have a young baby, right? And I was like, yeah, but you have 4 children. Like, I have 1, so I feel like the balance is in your favor here. I mean, not that it's a contest, but I think a lot about like, how do people have more than 1 kid? Y'all are superheroes.
I mean, my kids can put toast in the toaster and make it for themselves, and they don't need diaper changes. Sometimes they need directed where their clothing is, but they're way less dependent on me, which does make things, there are definitely challenges, but it makes things so much easier, and I think way less exhausting. It's amazing what like 4 nights of good sleep can do for a person, right?
I like that you said 4 nights because you're like, there's still those other nights. And that's the truth. Yeah. No, for sure. Okay. So I love that we got to highlight this. I love that we talked so much about it. And again, if you are looking for a Hacktoberfest project or just looking to help, like there are issues, there are things you can work on. And then, yeah, is there, I guess, like, I'm trying to think if there was anything else on my list, but I think we talked about all the questions that I had. Yeah. What else? Do you want to plug anything? Do you want to talk about anything else? Can we get a link to the GitHub? Yes, of course you can. yeah, is there anything else you wanted to talk about as far as Hacktoberfest goes?
Yeah, I just want to say too that if anybody is interested in looking for an issue or they don't see something that fits them, feel free to DM me on Twitter or to send me a message in some way. You can always email me, becca.hw@deepgram.com, and Becca's Bekah. But yeah, I'm happy to pair up and walk you through an issue and we can talk through things, or if you have ideas, I think that it's really important to support everybody who's interested in participating in Hacktoberfest. And so if you're nervous, I'm here to help you and walk you through every step of the way if that's something that you want. And so don't be afraid to reach out for mentorship as we're working through these Hacktoberfest issues.
You are a saint, so friendly, so welcoming, and I love that. And I can't claim that I can solve every problem, but I'm also happy to help. If this is something you want to dive into, I will help you find an issue that will work for you, because I have a surprising amount of experience diving through GitHub repos these days. So yeah, if that's something you want to do, we will find you a low code, a no code, a at your level code issue for you to work on. Like I will help to the best of my ability. And yeah, I also want to do Hacktoberfest in the chat again, just so that everyone can go to all the links. Bam! So we've got Hacktoberfest, the official website, which, by the way, usually their branding for the year is what the t-shirt looks like. So if that appeals to you, that is what the t-shirt looks like. Oh no, not another hobby. No, Twitty such. No, resist the urge. And then we also have the link to Kamunda's challenge. We also have the link to all the Deepgram repos and projects and various things. But also, you don't have to learn how to code to participate in Hacktoberfest, right? Like, we've talked about that a lot today, but it is true. There are a lot of improvements that need to be made in various open source repos, especially with docs, with READMEs, all kinds of stuff. So yeah. The other thing about Hacktoberfest this year that I think is interesting is they're only doing the first 40,000 people to submit their PRs, which I'm not saying it's too late, because I don't think it is, but I definitely had that in mind, because I'm like, okay, well, how fast is everybody? Because I want the t-shirt, but if I can't get the t-shirt, that's okay. Like, I'll live. But the t-shirt is kind of a symbol of pride. Like, every time Chael Codes wears hers on her stream, I'm like, damn, that's really cool. Oh, they've always had that limit? Okay. So maybe I don't need to worry. I guess I just didn't see last year that it was like first 40,000 people. I was like, oh no. But also, like, I'm sure they have a budget as well. So 40,000 is plenty of people. But yeah, it's not too late. You can probably still get a t-shirt. And even if not, it's still a great thing to participate in. Oh, thank you for gifting a subscription, Twitty Such, to Chael Codes. That's very nice of you.
There's some badges and stuff that you can achieve as well. So I think that you can get one if you have a Dev2 profile where you're blogging. You can get a little, I think it's a badge there. And there's different levels. I saw somebody recently achieved like level 3 Hacktoberfest. And I was like, I don't know what that means, but for some reason I want it too. Like,
no, I love that. I'm now looking. Though these are all old ones, please. Give me the new Hacktoberfest.
Do
you remember who had that?
So when I registered for my t-shirt, because I didn't even realize like I had to register for the t-shirt, even though you always have to. So once you get your 4 PRs, you have to like let them know and select your size and all of that good stuff.
Right.
And then they told me, I'm pretty sure they were like, hey, you qualify for this badge. And I was like, wow, cool. And then I started doing the process, but then I got super ADHD distracted, and I think I do have it.
Oh, there's one from a previous year.
I have one from 2020.
Yeah.
So I guess I still need to, I need to finish that, because my ADHD tangent took me somewhere else, and I never got my badge. But
Chael Code says she has one. I'm gonna pull it up.
Cool.
That is the ADHD way, though. It's like, this wasn't super easy. Oh, this one's from 2021, and then you also have the 2021, which the 2020 badge. There we go. I was about to say 2021. The 2020 badge is really cute. But so is the 2021 one. Dev2 was a sponsor in 2020. But yeah, so there's, and also, shout out to Chael Codes, because she also has some open source repos. But I think I don't know. I think I remember you saying you were not doing Hacktoberfest this year because it's a time commitment as a maintainer, which is totally fair. But you know, in the future, if you're looking for stuff to do, that is a thing you can do post Hacktoberfest as well, right? If you're not just looking for the t-shirt, the points for the t-shirt. Yeah. So yeah, you can get badges on here. And then I know there is a new site that now lets you collect like almost like stickers. Do you know what I'm talking about? Yeah. What is it called? Because I just got one. I got one when you sign up for Hacktoberfest. They let you have one.
Hoppin' or
I'm wondering if it will show up if I do this, because it was like, you can claim your first one now, and I already did it. Oh, Holopin.
See, I was not.
You were close.
On the right track, but not quite.
Hopin is like the events platform.
Yeah, that's what I'm like. No, that's not it.
So yeah, it's like, it looks like stickers but online. And so I got one for Hacktoberfest just for registering. Like I literally have not done my PRs yet, and they gave me one, so that's pretty cool. Do they give you another one if you finish?
I don't know. Does anybody else know? Because I definitely don't.
I was just wondering if you knew, since you happened to get your PRs in early.
I definitely did something. I might have. No, I don't know how to. Okay, wait a minute. What's it called? It's called
Holopin.
Holopin. Why is it not showing up?
I first saw them because they added this Dev2 post about adding your Holopin board to your GitHub profile. So like, if this becomes more of a thing, that would be pretty cool to have. I'm sus of digital stickers. Why are you sus?
I just have early bird Pegasus. I don't know what that is, but I've got it.
Literally what? Why are you sus, Jill? Oh, how can I hoard and never use them if they're digital? That's a good point. The amount of stickers, I literally have stickers from my childhood doctor's appointments because it's like, can't stick these, too sacred. But yeah, so that's a fun little thing as well. And if more and more people do the digital sticker thing, then that would be a fun thing to have on your GitHub profile. If you didn't know, you can make your README really pretty, which is fun for me personally. Well, cool. Yeah. Anything else you want to plug or shout out before we call it a stream? I had such a good time talking with you.
Yeah, this was great. Thank you so much. I just want to say, definitely check out our Deepgram translation Chrome extension. Very excited about that. And if you have ideas for features, let me know, because that's one of these things that I want to continue working on past Hacktoberfest and with community members, so we can try and make the world a more accessible place for everybody.
Yeah, and I just added the link to that in the chat, so it's easily accessible. Definitely check it out, especially if you're looking for Hacktoberfest issues, but even if you're not. And where can we find you on the internet?
I am at Becca HW pretty much everywhere, and it's BEKAH. So mostly on Twitter, but I'm also on Dev2 some, and I am doing a lot more Twitter spaces, usually weekly, but since we have a hackathon this week, it's not this week. I took the week off for that, but over on Deepgram AI Twitter account. So it's at Deepgram AI.
Awesome. Yeah, you are everywhere. Yeah, if you're not on Twitter, you should be, because that's where a lot of fun tech stuff happens. But also, yeah, if you are on Twitter, please give back a follow, so you can keep up with all the exciting things that you're doing. I will be live again tomorrow, maybe working on Hacktoberfest, maybe working on JavaScript bootcamp stuff. Just depends on how I'm feeling. Okay, Twitty Such, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. Maybe you shouldn't be on Twitter. Maybe you're living a much more calm life than I am. Okay, that is a fair statement. Thank you for the follow, Grazius. I appreciate it. But yeah, I'll be live tomorrow. I'll also be live on Thursday. If you want to see Becca back, let us know. Give us some feedback on this, and let us know what you want to talk about, because yeah, we probably have a lot in common, both being technical community builders, which is very exciting. So yeah, anything else you want to say before I shut down the stream for the day?
I don't have anything else to say, just other than thank you so much for letting me be here and to talk about these projects today. I really enjoyed this time.
Yeah, no, it was such a delight. And then I'm going to also try to find someone to raid. If anyone has suggestions, throw them in the chat, because I watch a lot of programming streamers late at night, and I don't know very many people that stream this time slot. Oh, thank you so much, love in the chat. I appreciate it. Y'all are wonderful. So let
Everyone I
me.
follow is offline right now. So.
Yeah, exactly. Like I literally follow so many people that so my partner streams at 9 p.m. Central. And so that's usually the no, not an ad, not an ad. That's usually the time slot that I follow. Is like people that stream late at night now, which is really funny. Lana Lux, I do love Lana Lux. She's very friendly. Okay, we'll give Lana Lux a raid. She does game development. She's very friendly. So be sure to tell her hi and lurk around for a little bit. She's always doing exciting things. So we'll give her a raid. I just want to say thank you, everyone, for popping by, especially for my first little guest stream. Make Becca feel very loved and appreciated. So I appreciate you all. And I will see you again tomorrow, which is wild. So I never stream Mondays. So I was going to say Thursday or Tuesday, but that's tomorrow. All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.